After being down in a 3-0 hole versus the 8-seeded Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics clawed their way back to a Game 7 opportunity in front of the home crowd, giving themselves the chance to return to the NBA Finals and make NBA history as the first ever team to come back from a 3-0 deficit in a playoff series. Fans everywhere getting their hopes up just for the team to come out and fall flat on their faces. The Celtics would lead 9-4 early in the first quarter, and it would end up being the largest lead that they had the entirety of Game 7, as the Heat claimed the lead with 3:28 to go in the first quarter, and they would never look back. Jayson Tatum turned his ankle on the first Celtics possession, which would set the tone for the evening for Boston. Tatum would play the rest of the game, but he clearly wasn't himself. Number 1 goes down, so number 2 needed to step up, and he didn't. Jaylen had an opportunity to rise to the occasion and get his team to the promised land, but he failed. What makes all of this more interesting is all the rumors that have surrounded Jalen Brown all season long. A massive Supermax extension is looming this summer for Jalen Brown, a potential 5-year, $295 million deal could be coming his way. But who is Jalen Brown getting that contract offer from? Prior to the conference finals, you would think Boston would do whatever it takes to keep the core together for as long as they can, but Game 7 put all of Jalen's deficiencies on display. Jalen's inability to handle the ball at even an average level is preventing him from taking the leap to superstardom. 8 turnovers last night for Brown, a majority of these turnovers being unforced, back-breaking turnovers due to his inability to handle the basketball. It's been a knock on him his entire career, and after the game last night, it makes you wonder if Jaylen can be a true reliable number 2. After 7 years in the league, if he hasn't improved some of his deficiencies by now, it's hard to expect that he ever will improve them. Can you pay a guy $60 million a year if he can't dribble? Well, I'll tell you this, if Boston doesn't offer that extension this summer, or even hesitates to offer it, you better believe there's going to be teams waiting for him. All year long, Jaylen has danced around the opportunity to discuss his future with the Boston Celtics. Logan Murdoch of The Ringer had an interview with Jaylen Brown in March, asking him if he plans to stay with Boston long term. "I don't know, as long as I'm needed. It's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time and how I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense, but I will stay where I'm wanted and I will stay where I'm needed and treated correct." I don't really know or want to answer that question because that type of stuff makes Celtics fans speculate and go crazy. Truthfully, the disconnect between Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics all started last summer when there was rumors circulating that Jaylen Brown could potentially be in a package to acquire Kevin Durant when he first requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets in the summer last year. Jaylen Brown took that as a slight to him as a player, and it's been kinda weird ever since. If Jaylen Brown isn't interested in sticking around, the Boston Celtics have one move they should make this summer, and that's with the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard has made plenty of comments over the recent months about not wanting to play with their rebuilding team. If Portland is interested in keeping Dame around, they could propose a deal around the number 3 2023 NBA draft pick for Jaylen, while also including some salaries going out, such as a combination of Nurkic, Nas Little, and Kevin Knox. Perhaps there would be some other draft compensation centered around the deal, but that is a deal that could work. If for whatever reason Boston doesn't want to keep Jaylen around, they could add a young piece in Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson, or they could relocate that number 3 pick elsewhere to add some more NBA-ready talent alongside Jayson Tatum. If Portland isn't interested in paying the premium for Jaylen Brown, then the Houston Rockets are going to be knocking on the door right behind them. The Rockets have the number 4 pick in the draft, which has some value, but as of now, the 23 draft is certainly perceived as a 3-person draft. This decision hinges on James Harden's offseason decisions if he decides to stay in Philadelphia or heads back to Houston. It's hard to gauge what Houston want to give up in addition to the number 4 overall pick, but if Harden comes home and they're looking to compete, I would not be surprised if they decide to throw in any young guys like Jalen Green or Jabari Smith. Kevin Porter Jr. is the highest paid player on the Rockets, so he would be in the deal by default. The tough decision would be deciding whose skill set they value more between Jalen and Jabari, and ultimately what Boston may decide they value more. At the end of the day, Boston could go without extending Jaylen Brown this summer if they choose not to, but they're going to be playing with fire if they don't. Jaylen is under contract for the 24 season coming up, but I would bet good money that if he doesn't get extended this summer, he will probably hold out for a trade at the deadline next season. Jaylen already seems kinda unhappy with his future in the balance with the Boston Celtics, so if they continue to wait a little bit too long, it could come back to bite them. What do y'all think they should do this offseason? Is it time to pay Jaylen Brown $300 million? Or is it time to break up the Jays and see who they could put around Jason Tatum to bring some success to Boston?